Hello, I'm Sam Menzer with the Chattanooga Public Library. I work as the recording studio instructor and the studio manager at the downtown location. Although today I'm still in my home production studio facility, whatever you want to call it, because the studio is still closed. So today I'm going to continue where I left off last time, which is I was talking about compressors and compression, and we're going to stay within the dynamic processor family, and I'm going to talk about limiters today. And you might remember I kind of mentioned that you can configure a compressor to serve as sort of a limiter in a situation if you need to. You raise the ratio to something like 10 to 1 or higher is usually the convention. You're going to want to have like a 0 attack time and a hard knee. But that in mind, a limiter actually is much more sophisticated and the best tool for the job if you're looking for limiting. One thing that separates the two is just the sophistication of design for a limiter. It's designed to be a limiter. So, where do we see these in practical applications? Well, of course, in mixing and mastering, but then also you might find a limiter if you're doing live sound at the very end of the chain. So no matter what, no feedback, like very loud feedback or a loud signal will get through. The limiter will cut that down and not create a bunch of ruckus and noise through your monitors at a live show. Also, radio stations have employed limiters for years and years and years. And I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's actually why they were invented in the first place. So, that being said, let's look at some of the features. And you might notice that a limiter will have some of the same titles for some of the knobs that you find on them. You know, you'll find the input and the output, and you might find a variable threshold, but really that's about it. So you're not going to see some of these things like you usually won't find an attack time. I mean, some of the more recent ones will have an attack time. You'll have a release most likely, and you probably won't see a knee function or anything like that. But that's because they are two different devices for two different purposes. So what you might find a limiter is doing is it's actually looking at what is happening below the threshold. So it's not just acting once the threshold is breached. It probably, a lot of them employ a soft knee below the threshold, that as that signal rises, the knee becomes a hard knee. By the time the signal has breached the threshold, you're having absolute limiting with a hard knee. You'll have a ratio that's infinity to 1, basically the highest ratio possible. And then the attack will detect also what's going on below the threshold. Limiters, especially the software limiters, have look-ahead functions. You'll see a lot of them will have 2 stages of limiting, basically. So sort of a transparent limiting is going on before the threshold is breached, and then once that threshold is breached, the hard limiting happens, and it's just absolutely aggressive and just taking that signal out. You know, I mean, it's not going to cross that threshold. It's basically hit its peak there. So with the input, the output, and the release, sometimes you'll also see this variable threshold, which is actually adding gain, so it serves kind of like an input function would anyway. So keep that in mind that as you lower the threshold, it's increasing the gain. That's just another way that some limiters are designed rather than having just an input. The output needs to be clarified a little bit because it's not like an output for makeup gain that you will find on compressors. It's an output that could be known as a ceiling level. So if you set your limiter on your entire mix or your master, really, I try to avoid using limiters on mixes. I don't actually, not on my stereo master bus. I don't. But in certain situations, which I'll get to, I might use limiters on certain tracks, but and that's individual tracks. But in a mastering situation, you can set the limiter as your last processor, and then set the output, which is the ceiling, to something like, for instance, if you're doing excuse me, if you're doing digital, you could set it to minus 1.5, which is dBFS, decibel full scale, peak value. So a lot of this streaming services are using minus 1.5 for that. If anything beyond that, it's going to their limiter on their end, which is another example of a limiter, will take that out anyway. So something to keep in mind. I encourage everybody to kind of look and see what the streaming services are using as far as their true peak value. Now, what we want to think about also is, and this kind of goes along with that, is when you are mastering, using a limiter as to maximize loudness. And loudness is an average that can be measured using loudness units full scale. But some advanced limiters will actually have these meters on them, and you can read them as you're mastering to get your mix, or your master, in the ballpark of whatever your release is going to be, whether it be a CD. It's going to be totally different loudness average than TV or streaming services, or really for CDs, it's the Wild West. There are no rules. So, but streaming, there are conventions. YouTube is going to have a different loudness average playback than Pandora or Spotify and iTunes and etc. But there's plenty of resources out there where you can find that information. One other instance that I will use a limiter is on drums sometimes. Depending on the genre, you can use a limiter on individual drum hits to really increase their loudness while limiting the peak. And what you're doing in any of these situations is you're bringing up the entirety of that sound wave while limiting how loud it can get in a peak sense. So imagine just squishing something up to a ceiling, and eventually you're going to hear artifacts. So that's what you want to avoid, non-musical artifacts that can be created in this situation. So there's a balance along with everything in mixing and mastering, but I definitely encourage you to try limiting. There's a lot of great plugins that we have at the studio and that come with Pro Tools, as well as the different other DAWs out there. So, and lots of free plugins too. So I encourage you to check those out. And when you're mastering your songs, don't forget to put a limiter on there. But also, you have to be aware that limiting can really kill dynamics if it's overused. And that's that same idea of squishing something up to a ceiling. Instead of having a nice dynamic mix that fluctuates, you'll just have one big solid block of music. So there's really no chance to let the music breathe. But that's all I have for today. So I appreciate you watching, and take care, everybody. Happy holidays.